Assalamu alaikum. My name is Muhammad Islam, and in this lecture video, I'll be discussing about network address translation, or simply say NAT. So let's dive into the detailed lecture video. So the first question I like, what is NAT? NAT, or network address translation, is a technique that is used in computer networks to modify the IP address information in packets as they pass through a router or firewall. Basically, in our local networks, we have different devices containing different IP addresses. So a NAT device such as a router, what it does basically, it turns all the common IP addresses into a single, all the different IP addresses into a single common IP address, and then routes the data through the internet. NAT plays a crucial role in managing IP address scarcity and enhancing network security. Basically, we have in IPv4 or IP version 4 addressing system, we have a limited number of IP addresses, which is roughly 4.6 billion. So in this limited amount of IP addresses, we cannot assign each device an IP, as the device count is growing day by day. So by using the NAT, we can group some common devices in a local network into a single unique IP address. By doing this, we can easily reduce the number of IP addresses that is used in the internet. So there are some prerequisites to so that we can better understand what is NAT. So these are public IP and private IP. Here are the definitions of public and private IP. So what is a public IP? A public IP address is a globally unique address assigned to device that connects directly to the internet. These addresses are routable, meaning they can be used to identify and communicate with devices across the internet. So what it means that each device that is connected to the internet contains a unique ID. By that unique ID, we can identify that this is a certain device, and we can send or receive data from that certain device. And now let's discuss what is private IP. Private IP is an IP address that is assigned to devices within a private network, such as a home network, office, or school network. In these cases, we basically use the LAN technology, or local area network technology. So every device in a local area network or a LAN connection has its own IP address, and it is unique to that particular LAN network. These addresses are used for internal communication within the network, and by using this network, we cannot route the devices through the public internet. So this is the limitation of public IP. This is the limitation of private IP. So this is a table. By watching this table, we can easily differentiate the private IP and public IP. So basically, the first point is usage. We use private IP in home network or office network to identify our home devices or office devices individually, and we use public IP to serve in through the internet. Second, connectivity. Uh, the private IP address in a LAN network is not accessible by the internet, so we get more security, as any foreign threat cannot reach to our devices in a LAN network. And the public IP is exposed to the internet, so any foreign threats can easily access our devices. Private IP is assigned by the router, and the public IP that is used to connect to the internet is assigned by the ISP. Then comes reusability. The same private IP address can be used in different LAN networks, which means if my home, the computer that I'm using right now has a certain IP address in a private connection, the same IP address can be used in a computer that is located in my school, which means the private IP can be same in different LAN networks. But in case of the public IP, we cannot use we cannot use the same IP address in different networks. because in public IP address we need to identify every device that is connected to the internet individually. Lastly, security. As the private IP address is confined to a certain LAN, so it is not exposed to the internet. So as we have mentioned earlier, it is more secure. And the public IP, obviously, it is connected to the internet, so it is exposed to some threats. Now we'll be talking about types of NAT, as we have discussed the prerequisite part, which was public IP and private IP earlier. So it will be easier for us to understand the types of NAT. There are three types of NAT that we use in modern networking, and these are static NAT, dynamic NAT, and PAT. So what is static NAT? Static NAT basically maps a single private IP address to a single public IP address. Often it is used for servers that need to be accessible from the internet. Then comes the dynamic NAT. Dynamic NAT basically dynamically maps the private IP addresses to a pool of public IP addresses. And the dynamic NAT is often used when there are fewer public IP addresses than private addresses. Lastly, PAT. So what is PAT? PAT basically maps multiple private IP addresses to a single public IP addresses using unique port numbers, common in home and small business routers. And now we will be discussing the working process of the NAT. So there are some points that you can see from the slide, but I am preferring that we should learn this working process from a diagram. So let's jump into the diagram. In this slide, we can see that there is a diagram which basically simplifies the NAT connection process. So we have a host device, a NAT device, which is router in the middle, and in the right we have a server. So how NAT works basically, the private device, in this case this is a host device, we can see that it is located in a private network, sends a packet with its private IP address to the NAT. The NAT device then replaces the private IP address with its public IP address in the packet's header. As we can see, it is happening in the diagram. And also the NAT device tracks the connection in a translation table and then sends the packet to its destination on the internet. So when a response is received, the NAT device uses the translation table to map the public IP address back to the corresponding private IP address and forwards the response to the correct private device. So now we'll be discussing the points that why NAT is used, or we can say that the benefits of NAT, why we're using NAT in this networking era. So basically conserving IPv4 address. As we have mentioned in the very first slide, the IP version 4 addressing is limited to about only 4.3 billion unique addresses, which is insufficient because the number of devices, or we can say digital devices, is continuously growing, and due to this growing nature of the number of devices, we cannot actually allocate just 4.3 billion unique addresses. We need more addresses. So to address this shortage of IP addresses, we need IP address. We need to map a group of IP addresses into a single public IP address. This conserves the limited pool of IPv4 addresses by making private addresses reusable across different networks. And the second point is connecting private networks to the internet. NAT basically works as a bridge, allowing the LAN connection or the local area network connection communicate with the external servers and websites that is hosted in different LAN connections throughout the internet. And to connect the one LAN with the internet, the NAT device or the NAT technology is used as a bridge in between them. And the third option is enhancing security. NAT basically hides the internal structure of a LAN network. So any threat from the outside cannot easily view the structure of the LAN or the local IP of an individual device. So it gets harder to access the local device's hardware. And now we'll be discussing some disadvantages of NAT. So the first one is complicates protocol. Some network protocols embed IP addresses or port numbers within their payloads. NAT device must inspect and modify these payloads for the protocol to function correctly, adding complexity and sometimes causing errors. Breaks end-to-end connectivity. Basically, NAT modifies the IP addresses and sometimes the port number of packets, which disrupts the principle of end-to-end connectivity in the original internet design. And the third one, and the most important one, is performance overhead. NAT introduces additional processing. We have discussed earlier that NAT translates the private IP address into a public IP address of several devices that is interconnected through a LAN. So these introduce some extra work to do, such as translating or encryption and decryption, etc. So the NAT basically introduce some performance overhead during this process, which causes some kind of latency or lag in online connectivity throughout the internet. So that is all for today. If you have any question regarding this topic, you can ask me in the comment section. And thank you for staying with me till the end of this lecture. Thank you so much.